Breer of SI.com, on his training camp tour, had a conversation with Patrick Mahomes, and there were a couple of things that stood out to me, and I just want to mention this. We can talk about it a little bit. The other point is one that I think requires a bit more unpacking, but Mahomes recognizes, and this is just a promise for Chiefs fans and a warning to all other fans that he's only going to get better. Because one of the things he's determined to do, and one of the reasons he's glad he has Blaine Gabbert now on the team, because Gabbert's been with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, Mahomes is desperate to get to the point that Brady was, that he knows what's coming before the snap, so he doesn't have to run around with his hair on fire waiting for something to materialize. As he gets older, he's not going to be able to run as effectively relative to the guys chasing him. At some point, he needs to be more confined to the pocket and rifle the ball to the guy that he knows is going to be open based upon what he sees on the other side of the ball before the snap. And he is obsessed, Chris, with gathering that same kind of knowledge. And the more you play, the more you see, the less you're fooled. So with each year, he's got 5 as a starter. You give him 5 more, I don't know what it's going to take, 7, 10 years total in the NFL. You give him 5 more as a starter, and I think he'll be there. And it's only going to make him better.
I would agree. I mean, the guy's a gym rat. I mean, he's a gym rat. He wants to tear your soul out. He wants to win every game in the history of football. I mean, he wants it all. He does. And he's driven to do that. That's why, you love him. And I don't think there's any doubt that he'll continue that fight to improve himself that way and have that, let's say, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning type knowledge, right? Where, it's like they're robots and they can see what's coming 2 plays ahead of schedule, right? Now, he didn't have to dive into that part of his brain as quickly as they did because he's physically more gifted. But the fact that he knows it and knows there's room there, and we saw an adjustment last year. We talked about during the season last year how good he was playing in the pocket, staying in the pocket, going through reads, not looking for Tyreek Hill, 7 pats down the. He made adjustments to his game last year. He will continue. I don't doubt that at all. And that's the cool thing about him having Blaine Gabbert there. He can pick Blaine Gabbert's brain all the time and be like, what did Tom do when he did this? What did Tom do when they did that? What did Tom do in the Friday meeting? What did Tom say when the coach said that? And that's going to be great benefit to Patrick Mahomes, who's, on the chase to be the royal goat, the goatness himself.
And that's what's concerning, I think, to every other team that competes with the Chiefs. This guy's got an incredible amount of natural ability, and he has put in the effort, and he has the desire to be even better. And he's spotting his flaws. He knows where he needs to improve, and he's determined to get there. He's not content to ever rest on anything he's ever done. And that's why, even though he's 5 behind Tom Brady, get used to it, I think, with the Chiefs, even though they've had to pull a rabbit out of the hat and or their butts in their 2 Super Bowl wins, down double digits in the second half. That's just part of
how they live.
The guy tick.
That's what they do.
The more he does it, the easier it is, because the more the opponent's going to be thinking, oh, God, here it comes. And here it comes from Patrick Mahomes. Now, one of the other factors, and I know Chiefs fans love it when I talk about how underpaid Patrick Mahomes is, but he is. And he was the highest paid player in football 3 years ago at $45 million per year, new money average. Now he's $7.5 million behind Justin Herbert. It's only going to get worse when Joe Burrow signs his contract. He explained to Breer that he's looked at the way Tom Brady did things. You want to make money for yourself and for your family. You want to keep pushing the market forward for other quarterbacks. You don't want to be someone that they use against other players. But at the same time, I want these other guys to get paid. Now, here's the problem. Where he currently is on the spectrum, it isn't pushing the market forward for anybody.
No.
And it is something that can be used by other teams and against other players on his own team, like Chris Jones. He says he wants other guys to get paid, and he mentions Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Well, Jones isn't getting paid. He's holding out. And Kelce is embarrassingly underpaid, too. He's more embarrassingly underpaid, I would argue, than Mahomes at $15 million a year, when a high-end receiver, 30, that's inflated by the back end of the contract. Let's say 27, 28. Kelce should be up in that range too. So it's not like the money he's leaving behind is causing his other guys to get a windfall. By him leaving that money behind, it makes it easier for the Chiefs to say to those guys, who do you think you are? Patrick Mahomes isn't insisting on top of the market. Why should you? That's how it gets used against other players.
Well, yeah, that's where I'm surprised. Where this is where, again, I don't understand other teams sometimes. Where, I know I've brought this up before, but why did other teams just let the market explode the way it did after Mahomes? You could easily, some of these teams just have been like, Mahomes is making this. You're not as good as him. You got to go a little less. I don't give a shit who you are. Sorry. You're not Mahomes. He's Mahomes. He's here. Everybody else is here. We've had this conversation before. It's like teams cause these own problems from themselves. Oh, we got to one-up the last guy, one-up the last guy. I don't know. In the old days, you and I both know that used to go on where they'd be like, no. Joe Montana makes this. So Phil Simms, you don't make that. You got to do what he does, and then you can make that. And that's the way it worked. Now it's just like, hey, next guy up. And if he's even the stratosphere of a top 10 guy, it's the best contract now. I don't understand that, why teams take that approach. But, yeah, it's crazy. But Mahomes is so aware, like we talked about, whether it was on the field reading defenses or whatever else. He's aware of what he's being paid and he's underpaid. But as we've hit a number of times over the last few weeks, he's more aware of how everybody gushes about Tom Brady and here talks about him as the GOAT. And the number one thing that always goes into that conversation about the GOAT, other than how he prepared himself and diet and all that, is that he took less the last 8 or 10 years of his career to accumulate more championships. And that's, again, to your point, where it's going to get used against people like Mahomes and Burrow and Herbert and all that because they want to be great and be in the pantheons of the all-time great. So they're going to take a little less so they can make sure other guys get paid and the team is really good.
By the way, that graphic is going to need to be updated because Aaron Rodgers gave up about $17 million a year. So he's no longer at 50.3, but he was. And, we went through that period where every guy, next guy gets a little bit more than the one before. It went Jimmy Garoppolo, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford with a redo. Before that, it was Derek Carr, Andrew Luck. I mean, it stagnated for a while.
Yes, it did.
And you weren't seeing, and I think Tom Brady's latter years had something to do with it for the reasons that you said. Who do you think you are, Tom Brady? Look at what Brady's making. We're not going to do it. It went through that cycle for a little bit like 5 or 6 years ago. Then it flattened out again, and it was just Rodgers and Russell Wilson.
Right.
And now with Mahomes, it's unlocked this new thing. I think the Deshaun Watson contract, fully guaranteeing that deal.
Definitely.
That had something to do with it. And now this year, we've seen Hurts crack well past $50 million a year at 51. Lamar at 52. Justin Herbert at 52.5. We know Burrow's going to be higher than that. Then comes Trevor Lawrence next year. And if Justin Fields has a Jalen Hurts type year, he's going to be up in that conversation too. At what point, if you're Patrick Mahomes, do you say, enough? The understanding when I signed this 12-year contract was at some point it's going to become obsolete. At some point you're going to take care of it. It's already become obsolete. We need to take care of it. I mean, there's a point where, remember when Phillip Rivers signed with the Colts and they gave him $25 million a year and we're like, whoa. But, there's something to be said for the lawyer who drives the nice car. Everybody's got to believe that you're good at what you do. If you're driving a jalopy, they're like, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. So you got to give the court, you got to tell everybody, this is our guy, and you got to give him that contract. At a certain point, Mahomes is going to fall so far behind the top of the market, it's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's not going to be becoming of what Patrick Mahomes means to that team.
No, you're right. It is. It looks a little crazy. It does. And I don't know if they can figure out some way to maybe do another 8 or 10 year deal. I don't know what they do, but I do know that a guy like Patrick Mahomes is very aware of the dynamics of like Brady, Michael Jordan, who took less forever because he was getting paid by $50 million by Nike in 1989. So it didn't matter. But the two GOATs of our era right now took less for a significant part of their careers. And I think that, the smart players and the guys that think about legacy, they're aware of that. And he's going to continue to fight this balance and probably will suppress the market a little bit because he's going to worry about, wait, I'm the man. I want to continue to be the man. I want the team to be good. I want to win the Super Bowls and do all that. And for a guy like Mahomes, he's getting to the stratosphere too, where this is the other aspect of this, where, I don't know, Mike, who's worth more right now? Is it Peyton Manning or Tom Brady? Do you know who's worth more money in the back? I think it's Tom Brady, right? The guy who took less is worth more. Well, why?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I don't know how the FTX thing affected Brady's overall portfolio.
Well, I don't think he paid $1 to the FTX. They gave him like a bunch of millions of dollars worth of FTX crap, but I don't think, in my understanding, he didn't give $1. He had a bunch of money worth that, invested in it, and that's how they get him to do commercials. At least that's my understanding. But either way, the point is that, last time I Googled it, Brady had more money and he took less. But he also, because he was the GOAT, he could just say, hey, I want this many millions for this appearance and this many millions for this commercial and all that. So that's where, players like Mahomes can, play this balancing act a little bit as well.
We're never going to get reliable information on Google or elsewhere when it comes to something like this.
How dare you? Google's always right.
I have a feeling Omaha Productions is a freaking gold mine.
You're right. It is now. He might be worth more now. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.